mechanism should have certain teeth with regards to protecting people's right. So that will be your answer. So here don't try to write Immanuel Kant, human dignity, etc. Plain and simple, they asked you to examine the working of National Human Rights Commission. So that's what I told. For most of the bodies, make a template. If it's a constitutional body, write constitutional articles. It is not? It is not a fully toothless type. Maybe you can write bit saying that because it is a 10 marker question. Okay, so in a 10 marker question you can't write much. If it is a 20 marker question or 15 marker question, you can say, however, with its own limitation, one cannot deny that human rights has played some positive role. There you can cite 2 or 3 examples where they have made an impact. For example, many times the recommendation, even though it is not binding, it has highlighted the human rights issues. Or second one, it has compelled the government to focus on these issues. Third one, many times Human Rights Commission suo motu, they have taken up cases and ensured that justice is remained. But the other bigger problem is also, since it is one body and you also have state human rights commissions on the other hand, there should be coordination with the National Human Rights Commission and State Human Rights Commission. But if it is a 20 marker question, you can add. But in a 10 marker question, go with more addressing the question. But if it is a 20 marker question, try to look into any kind of examples or specific things what NHRC has done, like to promote human rights awareness. Are they running any initiative? Okay, so are they created anything, some like human rights clinics which are there for everybody? Like if you take NCW also, they conduct, I think, this Mahila. One you should have in your notes is that what issues. Second one, you need to have articles or acts. Third one, you will have to know what are the recommendations in that regard. Fourth one, you have to know, is there any people who have commented on it in that regard. Fifth one, what you can add is that a fixed introduction and a fixed conclusion. If you see the question paper also, they have largely asked on this CAG, National Commission of Scheduled Caste, NHRC, Election Commission. But most of the times what has come is NCW and EC. They are the highest number of times which are asked. CAG, I think they have asked 3 or 4 times. So again, for all this you prepare a format thing. For these bodies I will also send certain notes that I will write and I will send, so that you can integrate into it. But again, your approach of writing these questions should be what you can say, a same template. So obviously Election Commission they can ask this year, because it was election year in that regard. Again they can ask the role of election. So format remains the same. Election Commission, what article? Article 324. Okay, what are the powers and functions of the Election Commission? What powers they have? So one, the conduction of elections. Second one, resolving disputes that emerge in elections. Third one, recognition of and registration of political parties in that regard. And fourth one is what? Model code of conduct. So obviously if you are going to write your answer, you have to write on these 4 aspects. And then you will have to know, okay, what is the role played by the Election Commission? Obviously you will divide your answer into both positives and negatives. The positive role what they have played. One, you can say they have ensured that throughout India's as a representative model, the elections have happened smoothly, the power transfer has happened smoothly. Second one, you can say they have ensured that India has remained the world's largest democracy, means the vote share has been increasing year after year. They have also played a very key role in increasing the awareness among the women voters, and that has been also reflected with more number of women voters. Or you can say technological upgradations what they have done, from the ballot papers to EVMs in that regard. And again you can say VVPAT has been recently also introduced. And you can also say they have gone to the last mile connectivity. For example, take an example in some places where even 3 voters are there, the Election Commission has sent or you can say a representative to conduct elections. Or you can say in recent times for physically disabled or old age people, they have again you can say vote from home, they have brought the thing. But then you will have to speak about also what is the issues with Election Commission of India. So issues, again it is standardized. One, you can say they don't have financial autonomy, it is not charged upon the consolidated fund, it is made from. Second, you can say the appointment is one bigger problem. Third one, the constitution itself is silent with regards to once an Election Commission retires, there is no bar or cooling off period with respect to he being reappointed or he being taken into other government mechanisms. So this will compromise on the autonomy of the body. Fourth, you can say the other issue with Election Commission is also that there has been a criticism that most of the election times the election commission is quick to act on the complaint of the ruling parties, but not in the case of the opposition parties. Or fourth issue with election commission, you can also say about that they don't have the power to deregister political parties, they only have the power to register political parties. So this handicaps them to take action against those political parties which violated the model code of conduct. And then you can see here and there you add viewpoint, like you have S.Y. Kurashi in that regard. He has written a book, what is that, the wonder that Indian election was or something is there, is a book. I will send you that thing, the book review. The undocumented wonder about Indian election. So in that book he says the biggest reform that will happen is to give financial autonomy to election commission. Or you can say that election commission alone cannot bring all the changes, it requires parliament to bring what you can say amendment in that regard. And you can speak out recently when Supreme Court told the election commission should be a 3-member body, again the government plotted it by bringing in ordinance and adding or removing the role of CJ within the commission. So these are all the wider aspect. So any question you ask, you have to be able to answer within these frameworks. So if you look at the election commission questions, what they have asked. See now they have asked in I think 2011, make an assessment of the role of election commission in conduct of free and fair elections in India. So obviously here the focus will be on what? How they are doing free and fair election. So you will start your answer by saying free and fair election is a hallmark of any democracy in that regard. So in this regard election commission, the constitutional body. So you will describe the body, etc. Then you go into first thing in an assessment, what positive role they have played in conducting a free and fair. Then you are going to say what are the issues with them conducting, means they don't have autonomy. Or you can give also examples. For example, in 1990, the one of the election commissioner, M.S. Gill, he resigned and he contested from a political party's ticket in that regard. So that was one also issue, because there are many cases where the election commissioners have joined political parties thing. Because now current you can say the present election commission. So again you say in Congress time it was not that it was election commission was something a pristine thing. Plain and simple, M.S. Gill during Congress time only he joined Congress and he contested election from Congress ticket and he won the election also. So the problem why that is happening irrespective of which party comes to power, the problem is because there are loopholes within the constitution. So that you need to bring, saying that this impacts them from conducting free and fair. Or you can make an argument is that it also raises the question about the integrity of the institutions in that regard. So in conclusion you be a bit more perspective, saying that for any democracy to be free and fair, strong institutions are required. And you can say somebody like Samuel Huntington has highlighted the weak institutions are reasons for failure in most of the developing countries. In this regard, the election commission, which has been functioning well, has to be strengthened even more. So that's what I told. For all these questions, it's easy to write, but you have to go with a fixed format. By heart those articles which are there, by heart those functions and powers what they have. And also you can say have a one page saying that what are the positive reforms, changes they have done. Again have one page regarding these commissions are there now. Indrajit Gupta committee which is there for bringing reforms in elections in there. And again have 2-3 court judgments, Lily Thomas case in that regard, what has been the Supreme Court judgment. So this should be all pre-prepared. Okay, and I have also again updated the recent case. In morning I have uploaded the new cases that is required for this time's exam. So what you need to do here is that follow an approach that where you can easily implement or have a template. So for this don't read very vastly, make one page short notes for everything. Okay. And even if they ask suddenly a new body, let us take they suddenly ask about National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Again I told, know about the act, it is a statutory body, what role it will play. Some functions you can easily fit into it. Okay, same na. National Commission of Women also same problem, spoil system. National Commission for Protection of Child also same problem, spoil system. Means what? These are all those who don't have expertise in these areas, they are appointed as a spoil system. Means what? As a reward when a political party comes to power. So in many cases the template remains the same. Even if you don't know, just put the same template and try to write an answer. So the end goal should be what? At least get a decent marks. Okay. But for this election commission and all, I will send a written documented notes that you try to go through.
How to differentiate between roles and functions?
See, if, for example, what is my role here? Teacher. But while playing that role, I have to perform certain functions. So, for example, what is the role of the election commission? To conduct the election. To conduct the election, what are the functions they have to perform? Obviously, they have to bring a model code of conduct. Obviously, they have to prepare the electoral, list. What is the one more role that election commission also performs? Resolving dispute between parties. So, how do they perform that function? For example, one more issue you can add. If you want to integrate, you can add the recent splits that have happened in this Maharashtra. So, obviously, you can say here they go by the Sadiq Ali judgment, where the Sadiq Ali judgment says that there should be three criteria. One, you have to look into the constitution of the political party. Second one, you have to take the opinion of the rank and file of the political party. And the third test is that when you can't do either two, go by who has more number of MLAs. So in both cases, the election commission told we are not able to determine based on the constitution of the party or etc. So we have gone by determining who has more number of MPs or MLAs. Okay, so this is one of the function they perform as their role to resolve disputes between parties. So if you are not able to generate there, just write role and function together. If you are able to generate the points, what role they play, okay, in this role what function they are doing.
Differentiate, if specifically they asked about the roles and functions.
Role is more broader, na? Function is might be more specific.
So in functions, power also can be written.
See, sometimes I give power and functions. The question is that you have been given a role in this academy. Why you have been a goal? To perform certain functions. To perform those certain, you need to have power. So power should be attached to that particular role. So that's what I told. Simplify. You might be a role as a teacher. Your role as a teacher. As a teacher, what functions you perform in the school? So similarly, yeah, you can say it's a mandate that has been given to them. But how do you function to perform that mandate? So what are the different functions you do under it? So when you say role is more broader, function is more specific. It's something like you say policy and a program. Policy is the set of objectives. Program is what, how you are going to achieve that particular objective. So in most of these questions, prepare one page notes in a systematic way and just go through it again and again and fit into it whatever they ask in the examination. Here don't try to make detailed study and all. Online only you search, you will get points. I will also send that document, but if you are able to get some other points, you just add it into it. That's what I told. These things should be in your head. Committee, articles, the powers and functions, examples of positive role they have played, examples of negative role they have played, good introduction and a good conclusion. These are the key aspects. And certain standard formats will be there for everything. Most of these bodies are only recommendatory. It is not binding in that regard. But there will be subtle differences. For example, election commission has certain binding functions. For example, when election commission recommends the president to disqualify a person, it is binding in nature. Now one more area where you can say question can also come is Panchayat Raj. Okay, so here also the structure almost remains the same in Panchayat Raj. Why it remains the same? No matter what they ask, they are only asking about financial issues, functionaries, funds and financial, what is that? Functionability, the problem of 4 F's. So how here you integrate, bring Gandhi. Okay, oceanic, means Gandhi should feature in every Panchayat question, what you write. Obviously, criticism, if something is there, you can bring Ambedkar, because Ambedkar are always highlighted certain challenges with respect to functioning of Panchayats in that regard. Or you can also bring Manishankar IR committee in that regard. Okay, just quote them, write 1 or 2 things. Or you can also cover different angles of Panchayat. So I'll give you one question, let us see how do you approach, because content will remain the same. Again here also by heart, article, constitutional provision, 73rd, 74th, PESA, all these should be in your framework. So just take one question as a sample and let us see how we'll approach this question. Okay, take this question to say, examine the unique features of 73rd constitutional amendment. Examine the unique features of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment. Unique features of 73rd Constitutional Amendment. And do you think this amendment would contribute, this amendment will contribute to the empowerment of the marginalized sections of society. Marginalized section of society. Now tell me, how will you write? Or first tell me the key demand of the question. If you know the key demand of the question, forming the idea will be very thing. The key word is, one is unique. So unique features, it's not only what is unique features, you have to examine the unique feature. Examine ka matlab, it's not a right criticism there. Right, why this feature has been added, or how this feature is going to widen the scope of democracy. Okay. So one keyword is unique feature of 73rd Constitutional Amendment. So unique ka matlab kya hai? Something which was never seen, which is something which is very different. Okay. So basically you have to say what is so uniqueness which is there in the 73rd Act. And examine ka matlab, you also have to write why this was added, why these features have been added. So that is one part of your question. Second part of your question is that they have told, would this contribute in achieving the goal of empowerment of the marginalized sections? Empowerment of the marginalized section. So who, first of all, who are marginalized section? Scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, women in that regard. And you can also include those who are economically weak also. Okay, that can be also included. Now there are two parts you need to answer. So for this part, you can write either aspect. One, how or to what degree it has empowered them. Second aspect here you will be writing why that empowerment has not been complete. What are the issues with the design of the 73rd Amendment? So these are the two aspects in your answer that you will be able to, you have to write, you have to bring it. Okay, now tell me how will you start your answer? What will be your introduction? You can take 73rd Amendment has been enacted to bring the Gandhian vision of what? A democratic decentralization.
So in accordance to Article 40.
You can write in accordance to Article 40. Then what will you write? What are the unique features?
One third reservation for women.
Okay.
Firstly, Gram Sabha.
Write the main thing. So this has a unique feature is that now it is bringing the idea of participatory democracy. So this is unique now because India structurally is mainly a representative democracy. Now what is unique they have done, they brought the participatory angle into democracy by bringing Gram Sabha.
Ashok Mehta committee called it as embodiment of direct democracy.
So you can say Ashok Mehta committee called it as embodiment of direct democracy. Second unique feature is what?
Three-tier system.
It is same in a Gram Sabha only. What is unique? Don't go into institutionally. First, come to the act. So the point what you first you told. So here you can say that they have also ensured that here the the women who comprise half of the Indian society should not lag behind, and they've given minimum one third reservation to what? To women. Why? Because it's unique. Because in constitution initially they had not given. Now they have given reservation to women in parliament and state legislative assembly. So this was the first time when women got representation into local bodies, or they are trying to bring women into public sphere. Article 243 D. Third, what is the other unique feature? That's a feature, but tell you what is unique in this. See, the problem with you guys, now you are just telling the features of 73rd. They are telling what is so unique. The same point what you told in unique, what is unique here is that once the Gram Sabha or Gram Sabha has been dissolved, the election should be done within 6 months, and that remaining they will continue for the remaining term. It's not that they will start from first. Okay. So third one is what? Here once the Gram Panchayat is dissolved, the election should happen within 6 months, and they will continue for the remaining term. What is the fourth unique feature?
Sir, apart from SC/ST, backward castes also got represented through all India. I mean, they are not in the political reservation.
First time
I think
was allowed.
voluntary.
Which is voluntary basis, no?
It is given constitutional recognition to third tier. Because federalism is around 2 tiers.
So, principle of subsidiarity came into power.
Okay. You can write this. Third tier recognition we already written. Gram Sabha is there. They have been constitutionally recognized. So it's a repeated point, na. Principle of. So why it is unique, or what is unique in this?
This has been criticized, it has not been followed.
That you write in criticism. But what is unique about the principle of subsidiarity?
Bottom up approach.
So obviously now there is a recognition that all these years there was a top down approach. Now for the first time they are going for what? A bottom top approach. That you write when why they have not been able to empower the marginalized community, because they have not devolved funds, etc. That you can come. Fifth, what is the fifth unique aspect of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act?
Financial autonomy, that will empower to raise taxes.
Financial autonomy, where they have told states can devolve if they want. It's not a compulsory devolution, right?
But sir, it is from the act only.
The act never says it has to be. The act says that it is left to the state whether they want to devolve it or not. What else? Think from unique lines, not just it should be a feature, it should be a unique feature which is, which was not there in all these years, which this act brought into implementation.
Considered village as a self-sufficient as per that.
Okay. You can add that, you have already added in introduction, it brought Gandhi's dream into reality.
District Planning Committee.
Hmm.
This was established through.
But it was 74th, not 73rd. It is 74th that district planning committees were created. What else is there?
Rotational reservation for SC/STs.
Again you can say reservation for SC/ST is already there. Anything means try to think on something like, okay fine, is there you can write, no you can write that because they brought something called as the social audit. Okay. Why? Because in India all this time the auditing was done by a body like CAG. Now here for the first time they introduced newer idea when you can say people are participating, they introduce the idea that social audit. But again one problem is that it again depends upon the voluntary basis. But the idea of what? Doing social audit for the first time was introduced under this act. Sixth,
Sir, made Finance Commission compulsory to grant some of the, to grant to the third tier instead of first and second tier.
is it there under the act?
Yes, sir, because in Finance Commission,
Finance Commission will act based on the recommendation of the State Finance Commission, right? They will consult the State Finance Commission with respect to dividend.
principals and grants in it, there was a provision.
But is it compulsory for them to give?
So 14, the Finance Commission onwards, they are doing it.
So minimum age for contesting is 21 instead of 25.
That you can write. Also you can say the age of contesting and is 21, so this bringing more number of youth into democratic framework. Now going to, do you think these amendments would contribute to achieving the goals of empowerment of the marginalized section of Indian society? So first write positives.
How it is contributing.
But you have to write an attaching sentence. You can say 73rd Amendment Act has been seen as a very what you can say impactful constitutional amendment within Indian history, where it has brought positive changes in people's life, especially the marginalized section. How?
Sir, it has ended the personal political dichotomy by bringing 14 lakh women representatives every 5 years.
You can say it broke the public-private divide and has brought women into public sphere. How many lakh women?
14 lakh.
14 lakh. Then in what else it has empowered the marginalized sections? Now it has also empowered the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe, because if you see for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, means which you could have also written in these unique features, they also bring reservation at the level of this thing, what is that, chairperson. Okay, so hence now regard, it has given the power for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe to be the chairperson of these committees, which has enhanced their social status. And in many places now the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, they have been able to break these what you can say caste barriers that has existed, because now the other caste members, they will have to interact with the SC chairperson, and so then what is the third achievement in bringing the marginalized sections? You can say 73rd Amendment Act has been very impactful with terms of rural development, since it is bringing the people into framework. You can say social audits and people being part of the planning process has enabled better implementation, of welfare schemes, and it has helped to a certain degree in addressing the rural poverty. Fourth,
So develop voting consciousness among the masses and shifted the governance system to the rural areas.
okay.
The politicians are now focusing on the rural areas.
The marginalized sections of the society, the keyword, it's not just people, the marginalized sections of the society. What else? One you have written about scheduled caste, scheduled women, poverty. Then what else? How else it has benefited the marginalized sections of society? Any other point that can be brought?
So better public service delivery,
Hmm.
ensuring child nutrition.
Okay, that you can add. That's a good point what you said. Since women panchayat members have been brought in, they are more conscious of nutritional aspect, handling because in Andhra Pradesh these gram panchayats what were there where women chairperson, they have been very effective in tackling the Iraq problem in that regard. So this has also helped children, their nutritional aspects have increased, and also you can say the most deprived section of the society because of better implementation of the schemes they have been benefited. So you can say better service delivery has increased the nutritional standards of children. But however, the 73rd Amendment Act cannot be seen as what it has completely ended the problems faced by the marginalized section. How? One, you will write about Sudha Pai's analysis of Pati Panchayats. Means what? Women have been more rubber stamp of their husbands rather than being truly empowered. Second problem you can say, as Ambedkar had said that what? Villages are den of ignorance, sink of localism. You can say caste system continues to be a challenge for the functioning of the panchayats. So you can give a recent example. In Uttar Pradesh, a Dalit woman panchayat member was slapped and thrown out of the meeting by the upper caste. Third, what else is the problem? For these mechanisms to work well, service delivery, etc., what is more important? It suffers from the problem of 4 F's: functions, funds, functionaries and functionability. Okay, so it suffers from the problem of funds, functions, functionaries and functionability. Okay, you can say for Shankar, as Mani Shankar IR's committee has said, decentralization of power actually has led to decentralization of corruption. See, one more main point only we left in. No. It was the first time they brought the realization of a partyless democracy. So political parties are not involved in panchayats. See, that's why many times you need to think on, because only we thought, that's why they are asking unique feature. So in what way it is unique? Because here what is unique is that political parties are not part of this system, because Gandhi believed that political parties are like prostitutes in that regard. So the power will not reach with the people, it is hierarchical. So here one of the thing is that even though political parties are not there, but you can say informally most of the panchayat elections are backed with political parties, which has led to factionalism, and especially the marginalized sections has been, again you can say here have come, like means caste wars, caste conflicts have happened. So now you write about what will be the way forward. In a simple sentence you are going forward. For realization of Gandhi's dream of this, what is it, Rama Rajya in that regard, it is very essential that the transfer of power should not be only in letter, it should be also in spirit. For this, each state government will have to, what you can say, bring about the transfer of funds, functions, functionaries and functionality. So getting a point, that's why I told, when the question is given unique, so the main point only missed, because here you can say party system is not there in the 73rd, because 73rd state is a partyless democracy. 74th is different, there you have political parties, but 73rd there is no involvement of political parties.
Parties are allowed, I think, because last
That is in Gram Panchayats. You are telling in Taluk Panchayats and Zilla Panchayat. In Gram Sabha election, there is no political parties. What you are telling is Taluk Panchayat and Zilla Panchayat. In Gram Panchayat elections, there is no role of political parties. So that's why I told every question, focus not just on blindly writing a format, try to identify the keywords in the question, try to think on those lines, you will generate points. Okay. That's why I told you, in these kind of exams, it's not about how much you know, how much points you are able to generate based on the keywords in the given time, because now we took a lot of time to sit to think. That's why I told brainstorming will help you a lot in improving your generation of points. Take one more question to think about this Panchayat. Okay, take down, this is a 2019 questions. To what extent the 73rd and 74th Amendment of Indian Constitution, to what extent the 73rd and the 74th Amendment of the Indian Constitution has enhanced women's, to what extent the 73rd and the 74th Amendment has enhanced the women's empowerment. 20 marks, 20 points. So now here question remains the same, but obviously the dimensions what we write and the structure what we write will slightly vary. Structure is remain simple. First we will write about 73rd and 74th Amendment. Then we write about the key aspect of 73rd, 74th Amendment is they have provided reservation to women, both at what? The member level as well as in Panchayat. They are also given a chairperson. Now they are asking the question, has it brought women empowerment? Now how will you write here? Introduction to is set. Structure is also set. So obviously structure is that one half you are going to write how they have been empowered. Second half you are write why you can say complete empowerment of women has not happened to that extent. Okay, first half of your structure of what points you are going to bring.
14 lakh women represented.
Okay, one you can say it is broken the public-private divide and brought women into the public, what you can say, sphere. 14 lakh women have participated. Then, so when these kind of question comes, try to break down your thing is political empowerment, social empowerment, economic empowerment, cultural empowerment.
So we can give case study.
You can give, but what case study? That everybody, most of them are telling Fatima. So is the Fatima the only woman who has been empowered?
Sir,
Chavi Rajawat is there. Chavi Rajawat in Rajasthan.
That's why, because Fatima is 100 answers, there are 90 people have written the same thing.
Sir, there is a case study by UNDP which says that not only panchayats have empowered women, women have also empowered panchayats in the sense that where the women are sarpanch, there has been more investment in water resources.
Correct.
And environmental things. So
That you are going to write next point.
eco-feminist.
But how panchayats have empowered women? One you told it brought into public framework, agreeable. Okay, you told Fatima B has been empowered. Same point, na? What point you are doing? You are given one example. Fatima B is empowered. No, you can change it. Radhika has been empowered in Karnataka. That is their point is that you are writing one point, women have been empowered. You gave one case study saying, okay, Fatima B has been empowered. Okay, point is same na. Fatima B is a woman. She has been empowered. She has been empowered in Telangana. There is Radhika in Karnataka who has been empowered. Okay. The point is that how they have empowered them. One you told, okay, now they have got political power. They have brought into public sphere. Second one, speak about social empowerment. Now, one, it has weakened the idea of patriarchy. Why now men are getting used to panchayat chairpersons, and their social status within the family has been empowered, because now here you write many case studies what have been shown that the women gram panchayat members in that regard, once they have become panchayat members within their families, now their what you can say influence has increased, their status within the family has increased. Third, economic empowerment, how it has happened.
Job generation, the promotion of SHGs.
Obviously, because now you told how he told now women have empowered panchayat, that is indirectly also empowered women. Why? Because wherever these women panchayat chairpersons are there, members are there, they have actually made many self-help groups function very well. They have sanctioned funds for these self-help groups. This has empowered what? Economic empowerment of women has happened through panchayats. Fourth, many women panchayat members who have gained that confidence of participating in public affairs, now they have led to what? They have entered now being a member of legislative assemblies, member of parliament. It has given them a platform to enter into the next what you can say higher level of political participation. Yeah, it has, yeah, you can use the word, it has given them political, not many but some have been able to do it. Okay. Then what else? In what else it has empowered women?
Even our president, she has started her career, I think, from being a sarpanch.
I think so. Check it once. No, that you can use an example. No? Check it once, but I am not sure. If that is the case, you can say the current president, Draupadi Murmu. Yeah, I think so. She started her career as a sarpanch. That will be a very good point to add in your answer. Okay, then you can also say ideologically also it has empowered women. Why? Because now these women, now you don't know Fatima B or who is that, the other, they have acted as an inspiration to other women to break their what is that, domestic barriers and enter the public affairs. But however, the 73rd and 74th amendment has completely not been able to resolve. Why? Because as radical feminism, it believes that what? State is nothing but a reflection of the social attitudes. So social attitudes continue to be patriarchal in nature. So here you are going to give examples. Same, what is one example? The existence of Pati Panchayats. Second, Aparna Basu, her argument is that women empowerment through panchayat should not be seen through a single lens. It should be seen through a lens of intersectionality, because he says Dalit women have especially faced double discrimination, one because of their caste, the other because of their gender. Third, what you are going to read?
So there is also issue of public patriarchy. It's done given by Sylvia Welby, where male members conspire with bureaucrats to deny information to women members.
That's a good point.
To
What
prevent
is
them from joining the meetings and all.
what's her name?
Sylvia Welby.
Spelling?
Yes. YLVIA.
LVI. Sylvia Welby.
WELBY. Public patriarchy.
Speaks about public patriarchy, where the male members have conspired with bureaucrats
Deny women members information and
to deny women members information about government schemes or programs. That's a good point what you can add. Then what else in that regard women empowerment has not happened? So other reason is that just giving political representation to women alone does not lead to the empowerment. They have to be also trained with respect to what? Handling the panchayats, administrative requirements. Capacity building is not there. So you can write that point. Because lack of capacity building among women panchayat members has reduced them to status of rubber stamp. Has reduced them to the status of rubber stamp. Now obviously now we are going to bring about like how to ensure this 73rd amendment can be a source of women empowerment. So one, you can say capacity building has to be brought. Second one, you can say that the meetings which are there, they have to be documented in that regard. And because when it's documented, then you will see that whether women members are allowed to participate, because many times meetings will happen without women members at all. Third one, you can say that gender sensitization has to be done, especially in rural areas with bureaucrats also. Why? Because many bureaucrats are not used to working with women sarpanchs. And then you can add your point towards the end, saying that broadly when we look at, it is not that just panchayats have empowered women. In a way, women also have empowered panchayats, in your last point that you can write and conclude your answer. So that's why I told, for every question it has its own demand. Single size fits all approach won't work. So in this question you have to speak out women empowerment from multiple angles: political angle, social angle, economic angle, cultural angle, at an ideological level, how they have been empowered. See here, one more question they have asked in 2016. The goal of good governance will be achieved only by strengthening the grassroots level democracy. Comment. We'll start 2A. How will you write this? The goal of good governance will be achieved only by strengthening the grassroots level democracy. See, what I am trying to convey here is that you guys know about panchayats, but the only thing, what the problem you are facing is that how to approach the question, how to structure the question, or what are the key things in the question. So that's why we say now the practice is what, take more number of questions, try to break them down, exactly understand and do brainstorming. So here the key word is good governance. So obviously in your answer, first of all you have to tell what is good governance. What are the core aspects of good governance? Transparency, accountability, rule of law, public participation, right? These are the key aspects of good governance. And what they are telling, it can be achieved only by strengthening grassroots level democracy. So here you need to bring your arguments that how by empowering the panchayats, you can bring a Gandhian idea, by giving back the power to the people, how good governance will be promoted. So obviously you can write about in panchayats, now people are going to participate. So Amartya Sen has said what? This has a positive impact. What? Democracy leads to an instrumental value, educative value. So you can bring in Amartya Sen's angle that how it is going to empower the people. Empowering the people is now what is going to happen. There will be now people, empowered people are going to put questions to the bureaucrats. You can give example in Rajasthan, Jan Sunwai. Or second one, the schemes will be designed from the local level. Since schemes are designed from the local level, you know the local problems better, and obviously the governance will be also better. Third, there will be accountability, there will be more transparency, and any kind of good governance should be inclusive. So obviously by bringing 73rd Amendment in India gives reservation to SCs, STs and women in that regard. So it's not only effective governance, we are also looking at inclusive governance. But nevertheless, two angles here. One, good governance can be, for that to happen, grassroots level should be strengthened. So you can write only transferring functions is not enough, it should be backed by funds. Second one, any kind of democracy at any level to work, you need to have educated people in that regard. Hence capacity building of those people who are going to participate will be very important. Third one, today it has become that good governance is also includes e-governance. So we also have to speak about bringing technological capacity building of our third tier. For example, National Optical Fiber Network, which is linking 1,50,000 panchayats in the country, e-panchayats. So if technology, people and what you can say, transfer of funds can come together, this you can say will truly make us realize the Gandhi's dream of what? Rama Rajya. So in these kind of questions, the focus should be on good governance. The link should be what is the link between grassroots level and good governance. But there you can also bring what are the challenges Ambedkar never believed that the role of good governance is only by strengthening government, because he told there are caste barriers, etc. So almost you are speaking about the same thing, but your dimension of your answers will keep changing based on what they have asked. Examples, you can give examples. See, in these kind of questions, it's more important you give examples. For example, Manrega program as one of the most effective schemes in India. Why? Because it has been built on strengthening our grassroots level democracy. But again, you can say in Kerala, the schemes have been more effective. Why? Because in Kerala, the local governance has been very strong, and it is also reflected empirically in their human development index. And in those states in India where the grassroots level democracy have been not empowered in that regard, it is also reflected in their what? Lower standards of human development index. So here you can bring, so that's what I told, Amartya Sen you can bring here into your analysis, because capacity building and all is connected with his ideas, right? You can mind, bring one or two scholars, but bring their ideas into the equation, then try to analyze bring your answers.
It is written only by strengthening grassroots level democracy. So we can also say that other tiers, that state and center, they should also play their role.
That you bring, that's what I told. First part of your answer you speak about why grassroots levels democracy are very important in that regard. Then you can speak about only, because that is what Ambedkar told. Now only village empowerment India cannot develop only by empowering its villages. Yeah, of course central should also play. It should also build governance. That you can include in your answer. Administration reforms are also needed at higher level. That will totally contribute. That is one angle. But first part of your answer, you have to give the link between grassroots level democracy and good governance. So now they can link Panchayat with women empowerment. They can link Panchayat with marginalized section. They can link Panchayat with good governance. They can link Panchayat with federalism. Okay. They can link Panchayat with party system also. You understand, in these kind of papers, especially paper 2 also, it's like that only. They'll interconnect many different things, rather than asking on only one thing. So what you do for these kind of questions and all, solve more number of questions this way, but only one problem is that you have to increase your ability to decipher the question within the given time. That can only happen with practice. So apart from your test series, write question every day. Daily PYQ, brainstorming, value addition. PYQ, brainstorming, value addition. That should be your thing. So for this women voting behavior, I have sent notes. I will also send notes for this Panchayat Election Commission, National Commission for Women. Small notes will be sent. And I have already sent notes now for paper 2 part A, especially for the comparative politics and political parties and pressure groups in that regard. And now we will do comparative politics in the end. We are starting with theories of international relation, balance of power, national interest. Now how to approach here? It's rather than, because most of you will know, but how to approach here. So if you take paper 2, part A, and you have paper 2, part B. Part A is bit theoretical. But the difference is that it is not theoretical in the sense how it is like paper 1 part A. Paper 1 part A is completely theoretical. Here it is slightly theoretical plus its application is very, very essential to do well. In that sense, if you just know the theory but you are not able to apply the theory in that regard, that is when you will struggle in this particular paper. Part B is more dynamic in that regard. It is more open-ended questions are asked. And based on what? Based on, let us take 1 year what are the developments that have happened. But here don't think that they are going to ask now what you can say in specific very minute changes. Maybe they are going to ask broader changes. So if you take part B in general, what are the core areas we have to know? One, you have to know the evolution of the Indian foreign policy. Questions have come here in that regard. Then there is one question every year that they have asked on determinants of Indian foreign policy, geography, history, economy, culture, political system, okay, internal determinants, external determinants. Question can come anyway. So obviously you have to know that how will I write my answer. This is why I told you have to be organic here. It's not like part A, you have fixed content. There is no fixed content here. And don't worry about too much scholars. Always do one thing, have a very good introduction, conclusion for every topic, or better way to do it, this Utkarsh Dwivedi has already done it. You can just change the quotes etc, keep the structure same. Why structure same? Body part should be your analysis. Introduction, conclusion is something what you have ready to fit into it. Then one more thing they ask here is also continuity and changes in Indian foreign policy. And NAM, both in part A and part B it is there. In part B it is more focusing on India's relation with NAM. In part A it is generally NAM as a movement, the question can come. But almost all the questions in NAM, can it be reinvented? Is it relevant? Examine in post-Cold War, what is India's current stand on NAM? Or in some cases if they want to ask current affairs, they can ask 17th NAM summit, what are the important outcomes. So for this what you will have to do, look into the latest NAM summit. Any major decision, has it been taken? Other things will be always same. New international economic order, anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, anti-neocolonialism, non-traditional security threats, multilateralism, democratization of international institutions. More or so the themes will be the same words. And then you have South Asia. Every year they have asked one question on South Asia. More so it revolves around 3 dimensions. Hydropolitics in South Asia, ethnic issues in South Asia, border disputes in South Asia, or why SAARC has become a jammed vehicle, as Raja Mohan says. Then you have Look East, Act East policy. This is one more area where they have asked questions in that regard. Mainly they are going to ask, okay, what is the difference between Look East, Act East, or how Act East policy is one of the central point of India's engagement with Southeast Asia. These kind of questions have come. Then you have next question they have asked on regions. If you take India's policy in West Asia, India's policy in Central Asia, India's policy in Africa. Latin America has been very rare, but still nevertheless you can have some basic content to go and write in the exam. Then there the new area where the focus has got Indo-Pacific. It's a very moving what you can say keyword which you can find in many places. Then the other thing is that within this region itself we also have to look into India and Southeast Asia. And now when you are doing these regions, we will have to also look into certain minilaterals or plurilaterals which are there. SCO, Quad, I2U2, you have BIMSTEC. They have not asked Mekong Ganga cooperation all, they have asked only the major ones which has been seen recently in news. Then you will have to know some major countries, question to has pakka featured, that have been in recent times. US is becoming very important naturally because India-US relationship is concerned in US. Russia is one more country, but has been consistently they have asked at least one question in that regard. The third important country that featured in the question paper is Israel, given the de-hyphenation that has happened and the recent Israel-Palestine issue, etc. And on the, like every 2 years once or 3 years once they are asking questions on India, Japan. Then and now European Union has been asked. So recently if you see India signed a free trade agreement with not European Union, this EFTA, Liechtenstein, Iceland, Norway and what is that? Iceland. So with this country. And China and Pakistan are two important neighboring countries of India, which you will have to know. But Pakistan's question is very less compared, but China's question they have asked more number of times it has featured, or many times they can link China and US, like how India should go about. Then you have important, or you can say some neighboring countries which are important, like you have Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nepal. Largely these three countries are mainly featured. Bhutan, very rare they have asked. Maldives and all, not though in recent times. Only I think last year they asked about Iran. Even so, countries also, it's not that they are not asking India, France, India, Germany. No. And the other area they have gone into asking questions is that a very broader questions, like India's nuclear policy, India's policy regarding what global south, because now you can say India is projecting itself as a leading power, Vishwa Guru, the leader of third world countries. So question can come here saying that what is India's role, what India's role has played. And they've also asked questions here also with respect to UN and India. Okay, for example, one common theme they asked, permanent membership. The other important thing they've asked, India's role in UN peacekeeping forces. Largely these are the two themes that has featured in the exam. Only sometimes once in a while they have asked about India's stand in WTO, or they have told sketch India's leadership in WTO negotiations. And the other key area you can also have to know is that these are all linked to party and part B, because when you do WTO and part A, WTO and part B, it is linked. Climate change negotiations. Diaspora they have not asked directly, that you will have to include in your what you can say, the answers what you write, means soft power, India's new tool of soft power is what? Indian diaspora. Now the challenge in this kind of question for you to answer will be your articulation. Second one, perspectives. It not just opinions of different set of scholars, you have to know different perspectives. And again here you cannot expect the question to be very specific. Sometimes they have asked BECA, BECA, they have asked between India and US, or this time they might ask about ISET. But again here they are not expecting you to know detailed aspiration, but a broader view of ISET. So this is one part. Now to write these answers, now you can say, sir, what is the use of part A? In part A, what will I have to know? Okay, in part A, you have to know the theories which are there in international politics. Classical realism, neo-realism, that is also called as structural realism, Kenneth Waltz, here you have Hans Morgenthau, book Politics Among Nations, this fellow's book, Theory of International Politics. So that's what I told here, why I am telling in this kind of, it's not like part A that you know detail. Question will be applied, means if you know the gist of the theory, you have to be able to bring that in your analysis. And here now don't blindly try to bring classical realism in India-China relation and all. You can use concepts. Don't try to make the mistake of saying classical realism, Morgenthau never told about India and China anything. If you want to bring your analysis, you can bring a realistic perspective in your analysis, you can bring a idealistic perspective. So when you want an overview about India and China, you can say, if I ask a question, anyway one test series question I will tell, already asked, it is wrong to see Indo-China relation through the narrow lens of a zero-sum game, discuss. Obviously first of all in your answer you have to tell what is a zero-sum game. Once again is others' logic. This is largely seen from the perspective of classical realism, because classical realism believes in absolute gain, they don't believe in relative gain. So they are asking you from that point of view, do you see India-China as a zero-sum game? So first of all, why that view is there in India-China relation, you have to bring. India, China are the two giants in Asia, and we can say that with Napoleon Bonaparte once predicting that what China is in her slumber, once she wakes up, she is going to shake the world, and now these immediate tremors are felt in India's neighborhood, and this has brought India and China out of their modus vivendi onto a path of conflict in recent years. And you can go on to say that what are the hurdles in India-China path. One, India joining Quad. China, now you can say rejecting India's membership into NSG. Means they are removing each other out of the country. Third, you can say now China using its salami slicing strategy along the Indian border, trying to occupy or do incursions. Fourth one, you can say both India and China today are on the base race. What is base race? Acquiring more number of naval bases in that regard. You can give examples. China has acquired in Hambantota, Gwadar, etc. India has done the same thing with respect to Changi, Sabang. So all these gives that, and India is reluctant to be part of China's BRI project on the grounds of territorial integrity and lack of transparency. This shows that what India and China relationship has deteriorated. It is on the path of conflict. But however, it would be very narrow to view it as a zero-sum game, because at the same time this relation has interdependence between the both. Now we are going to bring the interdependence. One, China is dependent on India for its market, and India is dependent on China for the global supply chain. For example, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, 80% of it is imported from China. Second one, both the countries are also part of certain multilateral platforms, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS, and they are also together, working together to build a new economic architecture in the world through New Development Bank, Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, which is a Chinese bank, but it has India as the second largest shareholder, and India has received the highest number of loans from AIIB. And thirdly, you can say both India and China face the common threat of destabilization of Afghanistan is going to hamper both of their interest in their own way. Hence, we can also see that India, China have a lot of areas where their interests are overlapping. But however, you can say, the problem lies with mutual trust deficit in that regard. And second one, you can say the recent Chinese border incursions. So S. Jaishankar in his book India Way says that the next 2 decades between India and China will be difficult, but he say it is manageable through what? Bringing the right set of alliance. Second one, continued negotiations with China. Third one, working on our own individual strength, economic reforms, modernization of India's defense, development of India's border infrastructure. Hence, we can say that India-China relationship cannot be viewed through a narrow lens of zero-sum game. It can be better categorized as complex interdependence. So that's why I told in IR now the problem is it's not that you should artificially write something, bring your wholehearted analysis into it. But to know those analysis, you have to know different perspective. If you don't know different perspectives, what it will happen is that you are more or so just writing factual information in that regard. So there is no again here reading the question is very, very important. Amen. That's what I told. Introduction you can prepare and keep, like this Napoleon dialogue. You can use it in 2-3 places. They can also ask a question on, has rise of China threatened the American hegemony today? Obviously answer is, it's not a zero-sum answer. Yes or no answer is not there. Okay, now you might get different ideas, but you have to know how to tackle it. You might get Thucydides trap to include in your answer, but you have to correctly bring it. So first part of the answer you have to tell about what is US hegemony, what are the foundations of US hegemony, and then you can say rise of China. China has risen rampantly with respect to its economic strength, military strength, BRI project, and what do you have, that global security, what is that? Global Security Initiative. So now you can say where China has actually challenged the American hegemony. Economically, they have been able to challenge the American hegemony. And you can also say the America's exit from Afghanistan, America going through the path of deglobalization where they withdrew themselves playing the role of global policemen, has elements of what American decline, the rise of China. But at the same time you cannot say China has completely risen where they can replace America as the global policeman. China is just an emerging power who wants to want to be within the present world order, but they are asking for a greater say. So obviously you have to say China does not have the military strength to counter US till US continues to be the dominant power in terms of military budget or the technology what they possess. China's soft power is not as powerful as the American soft power. Largely many countries still see China as what authoritarian country in that regard. So they don't have larger influence in the global world. Or third, you can say China to become a global power, first they have to become an Asian power. And you can say within Asia only, still it's not that it is an unipolar Asia. But nevertheless, what Thucydides says that in these kind of scenarios, when there is an emerging power, when there is a declining established power, there is chances that a war might break down. So you can say that the current world order is in a flux, which says that there is no complete American decline is in parts, and there is also no complete Chinese ascendance is also in parts. You can see an economic ascendance, maybe to a certain degree their military ascendance, but still China's soft power in that regard is yet to take roots. So in these kind of questions, there is no one answer what you can write, it is your wish. Now somebody might argue, the point says that completely take a push that there is no kind of decline in American hegemony. Why? Because power is a very contested concept. It's very difficult to determine power, measure power, or account for decline or increase in power. So you have to bring different perspectives in your answer, and that's why for these kind of questions you have to predict what question might come in the exam given the current context. But theory is what you have to know, basics you have to know. So you have classical realism given by whom? Hans Morgenthau. Neorealism given by Kenneth Waltz. But again, neorealism or structural realism you can divide into two. One is the offensive realism, and you have defensive realism. Offensive realism is given by Mearsheimer. So what is the book written by Mearsheimer? The Tragedy of Great Power Politics. And defensive realism is given by whom? Kenneth Waltz. So where can you use in your part B defensive realism? Let us say you want to use defensive realism, where you can use it?
Sir, India's approach towards China, sir, we are security maximizers, not power maximizers.
Very good. Or India's nuclear policy is based on defensive realism, or India's surgical strikes. You are getting a point. You have to know in areas where you can bring those keywords into. You don't bring there again Kenneth Waltz. You can just use a keyword. So if you look at India's possession of a nuclear weapon in that regard, it is largely guided by its policy of defensive realism. You can bring. So one thing you remember, in a page what you do is that write down all the keywords in part A. National interest, balance of power, defensive realism, offensive realism, whatever you can recall, and keep revising those keywords, that you have to be able to bring it in your answers. Now tell me what is the main assumptions of classical realism. So Hans Morgenthau in his book had written certain assumptions of classical realism. What is the main assumptions?
Animus dominant. Nations are power maximizers. Struggle for power.
So what do you mean by eminence dominandi? So basically nations are nothing but reflection of individuals, and individuals are always power seekers. Then second one, what is the second assumption?
Describes national interest in terms of power.
Countries will always go to secure their national interest, and national interest is dynamic. Third, prudence is the only ethics. In international politics. Then
Autonomous discipline of international relations.
so international politics is an autonomous area of study. Then
No role of ideologies.
the primary actors in international politics is only the state actors. And nation states goes for absolute gain. And every country will have to go for what? Balance of power to bring peace. So these are the main assumptions of classical realism. Now what is the difference between classical realism and what we call neorealism? So in neorealism they have multiple versions. One is you have structural realism. So under structural realism, how it is different from classical realism?
Classical realist area of analysis is human nature. Here it is about structure of international politics, from unit level to structural level.
So in classical realism, that all states go for power maximization or war. It is because it is human tendency. So but classical structural realism or Kenneth Waltz, what is goal of Kenneth Waltz? To bring a scientific analysis of international politics. So he told human behavior cannot come under the purview of empiricism. So that is why he told states behave not because of human behavior. He told it is because of the structure of international politics. So what is the structure of international politics? It is hierarchy and it is anarchy. Since there is hierarchy, since there is anarchy means what? No established common authority. It's like Hobbesian state of nature. So obviously in Hobbesian state of nature, whatever the classical realist believes that what international institution, international laws, they are all waste. So the international laws according to classical realists or even structural realists, both of them believe the same thing. They believe that what? They are nothing but articles of peace, or they are similar to covenant without swords, are nothing but words. But there is a difference in both of them. These people are telling it is because why? The structure of international politics is anarchical. But what the classical realists are telling, why it is anarchical, it is not because of the structure, it is because humans behave in that. That is a small difference between. So Kenneth Waltz wanted to bring a scientific analysis of international politics. That is why he told it is the structure of international politics that is hierarchical and anarchical. That is why it goes to it. Then what is the second difference between the two? Between classical realist and neo-realist, structural realist.
For structural realism, the end goal is security.
Okay, you can say that, but even before going to that, classical realism believes in the idea of absolute gain. Neo-realism believe in relative gain, meaning that international institutions here there is no use only. Here that an international institution can work if the powerful countries they find some relative gain on, means they are going to gain more than the others, then they are ready to participate. The other point what he said, the end goal here for classical realism is more about power maximization, but within structural realism the defensive realists what are there, they believe that it is security maximization. Any other difference between the structural realists and the classical realists? But both of them had same one, both of them believed, no, there is one more difference. For classical realists, they believed in multipolar world order brings stability, and as the structural realists believed in a bipolar world was more stable.
Polarity of power thesis.
Yeah, polarity of power thesis, it says that which thing, then you have one more thing also called as unipolar world or American a single hegemon is more stable, hegemonic stability theory given by I think Kindleberg. Okay, Charles Kindleberg. So see, one, it depends upon if they give the question directly, or you should be able to interlink and bring in your analysis based on what is the question that has been asked in the exam. Why sometimes paper 2 they will find difficult to write is that because sometimes they will give question open ended. So that time you will have to link and write from what perspective, or sometimes they will give direct question only, that will be much easier to write. And sometimes they will give questions such as what take down this question and let us see how will you write. Take the question as comment on precursors to the classical realist school of thought in international politics. Precursors to the classical realist school of thought in international politics. Or in next to that precursor, take intellectual precursors. I mean the precursor you have take down that as intellectual precursors of classical realist school of thought or realist school of thought. So this was a question that was been asked in 2013. How will you write? Now you read everything about realism, but now how will you write the answer? Okay, introduction, all you can say, realism is one of the oldest school of thought in international politics, etc., etc. Oldest school. I told, for this and all now make ready, introduction, everything you keep it ready. Or I will send you a page of introduction and conclusion. Then what will you write?
So you can divide it into Western and Eastern intellectual precursors.
Very good. One, the Western and the Eastern. Then
In Western it is Machiavellian.
okay, in what way Thucydides has contributed to realism? They are not asking who, they are telling what. So I have to write what is their contribution to realism. Thucydides did not give Thucydides, that was the term which has been coined by somebody else. So what was Thucydides' contribution to international politics?
He has written a book called History of Peloponnesian War.
Hmm.
And not right. I haven't read it.
Okay, what is the contribution of Machiavelli?
He says that power politics.
Hmm.
So politics is a struggle for power.
Okay.
We can extend that idea in global sphere.
Okay. Politics is power. Then he gave human nature as selfish, egoistic, and materialistic. This can be also seen that how classical realism views the behavior of the states, because he based his study on human behavior, and that is how the states will also behave. Thucydides spoke about what? War. War is very essential to ensure peace or security. Hobbes spoke about state of nature. This can be also extended into what we can say the realist school of thought, who believes that international politics also resembles the Hobbesian state of nature. And this state of nature, because here you can say, he says that what there is no common authority in that regard. So when you look at neorealism in that regard, they bring that what the international politics is anarchical and hierarchical. So obviously self-help is the best help, and every country will have to go for its own security. Security dilemma will be there to come out of this security, because everybody is in war against everyone. Hence you will have to go for what? Safeguarding your security. Similarly in the eastern ideas also, they have also implemented. Here you have Kautilya with his book Arthashastra. So what is Kautilya's contribution in Arthashastra? How this writing of Kautilya shaped realist school of thought?
He explains balance of power, art of war.
So you can say he speaks about balance of power. He speaks about different types of war that can be conducted. Mandala Siddhanta, that your immediate enemy is your neighbor. And he also gives about the importance of geopolitics. Okay, this all bases the foundation of the classical realism or the neoclassical realism, that countries will have to go for self-help in that regard. Then you have Sun Tzu, who speaks about art of war. And what is Sun Tzu's prescription in art of war? Again you can say, Sun Tzu also says that the psychological warfare plays a very important role in international politics. And end of that, even Sun Tzu views politics in terms of what? Power, what you can say, struggle for power. So all these writings, you can say, has been now structured and conceptualized by Hans Morgenthau in his book, the Politics Among Nations, and Hans Morgenthau has been called as the father of classical realism. So you have to give a foundational link, that how the idea of classical realism is developed, who are the intellectual precursors. So see, the point what is here in that, in IR papers you have to be very fluid in your answer writing. You cannot be, what you can say, not like paper 1 part A. It will be a bit dynamic, so you have to be able to connect the dots. So that's why I told, only writing what is that, Thucydides, it's not enough, Peloponnesian. We have to tell what is the idea that he has given in that particular book, and how that idea has influenced the development of the realist school of thought in international politics.
Sir, can you please explain the difference between Thucydides traps and transition of power?
Power transition theory.
Power transition theory.
Thucydides trap is nothing but, it can be linked to a power transition theory, but he says when power transition happens, means the power transition believes that no country can remain as a hegemon for a long period. There is called as long cycle theory. Long cycle theory means every 60 years or 90 years the hegemon will see in a decline. Why the hegemon will see in a decline? Once you become very powerful, you might overstretch yourself, and that brings your decline. So you have the example of first Spanish domination in the world, then you have the Britain, Pax Britannica, then again you have Pax America. Now they say that America is now on the decline. Thucydides trap says that what, when see, the idea of Thucydides, there are both criticism also. The criticism is that Thucydides trap means that when you have an established power, when you are rising power, war becomes inevitable. Okay, but what some criticize is that how do you perceive that who is an established power and who is a rising power? So they say when who gave that Thucydide trap?
Graham Realism.
Graham Allison, he gave the theory. Some critic against him is that he has not understood the Peloponnesian War correctly, and he has just given a fancy word called as Thucydide's trap. And some also say that it's not that every time that there is a rising power, there is an accommodating power, war will happen, or war has happened. So they say that is selective use of history to project theory. Or the liberals say that it is more of what you can say promoting war as a criteria. So the Thucydides traps only says that when there is an established power, they have their own world order. Now when there is a rising power who is not able to accommodate within this particular world order, obviously they will try to, that leads them to conflict. Some say that, now why some say equating China and US to Thucydides, they say it's wrong, because they say that it's not that China has problems with the American led world order, they are not trying to completely change the world order, they are only asking minor changes within the world order. Power transition theory is basically how, why no country can remain stable, why there is a transition of power, and power transition may not be always peaceful. For example, in Thucydides says that it will lead to a war, then you can say new power will arise.
So sir, if like the changes in Indo-Pacific or the changes in international dynamics, it is more explained by power transition theory. And when we tell that there is a chances of war, then we quote the Thucydides traps theory.
See, that's what Thucydides traps is a thesis that has been put, like how you have nuclear deterrence. Thucydides trap is also just a theory. It's like you have both proponents of it and you have both opposers of it. But yeah, the proponents will say that if you like this Trump's advisor was there on floor. So he says that war is bound to happen between US and China in South China Sea. Why? Because America has a system in South China Sea, means UN conventions on lots of these are all symbols of the American led liberal world order. So obviously who was the policeman of this liberal world order? It was the Americans. So obviously now China is trying to break the very essential of the liberal world order. Or obviously they are saying we are not going to follow the international law. So they use their own 9-dash line to lay claims on South China Sea. So obviously now China is challenging the American, what you can say, the liberal world order. So question is about whether war will not happen, it depends, nobody can predict. Currently the level of dispute lies at what? Now China will declare AIDZ, China is using its cabbage strategy, the Americans will try to challenge the China's AIDZ by flying aircrafts over their declared zones. So now the question is more over at level each country trying to, what you can say, try to create irritation to each other, but it has not led into a full conflict. So question whether it will lead to a full conflict, the Thucydides traps, yes, it will lead as China becomes more powerful in that regard. Or you have Mearsheimer who says that the rise of China is not going to be peaceful. So these things you can bring in an analysis based on what is the question they have asked in the exam. Okay. Now in these kind of questions it is more straightforward. Who are the intellectual precursors to realism? So you can divide your answer into East and West and write Thucydides, Machiavelli, but you have to explain what they have contributed to the school of realism. And similarly you have Kautilya and Sun Tzu. And then you have to write about Hans Morgantha in that regard, and who has actually given more assigned structured study of international politics and documented in his book, and that is why many consider Hans Morgantha as what? The father of classical realism. Most of the question you take on this realism, so take down one more recent question they have asked. Discuss the emergence of neorealism and its basic tenets. Discuss the emergence of neorealism and its basic tenets. 15 marks. UPSC 2021 question. How will you write? So what is the key demand in the question?
How did it emerge?
Okay, discuss the emergence of neorealism. Okay, how will you start your answer? How will you start your answer?
Define realists. Introduction of
Tell me exactly what you are writing as an introduction. When none of you have prepared any like introductions, conclusions, all for these parts.
So realist school is the most hegemonic school of international relations. It emerged as a criticism to the idealist philosophy given by Woodrow Wilson.
Okay. Then this question is asked for 15 marks. Okay, agreeable. Introduction you told. The realism is the oldest school of thought in international relations, and what you can say as it is emerged as a reaction to the idealist school of thought, and hence Morgenthau is considered as the father of classical realism. Then
So then we first define neorealism and its proponents. And then
why will you declare neorealism and proponents? First you have to tell about classical realism.
So that was I was thinking that first we should write the challenges of
Because they are telling you have to write about the emergence. To write about the emergence, first you have to briefly write about classical realism. You have to tell what are the defects or criticism against classical realism brought by Kenneth Waltz, because he wanted to develop a scientific study of international politics, and he said that you can't base the study on human behavior because human behavior does not fit into the empirical school of thought. And hence this led to what? He bringing new aspects. So what was the new aspect he told? He told the behavior of the states is not on account of human behavior, it is on account of structure of the international politics. And now you go into telling what is the basic tenets of structure of international politics. So what is the basic structure? One, it is anarchical, it is hierarchical, countries will go for relative gain, not just absolute gain. Then what else is there? What else the neoliberalism will believe in?
believe in bipolar world, stability in bipolar world.
So they believe that bipolar world is more stable, and again you can say within neorealism there are two sub-schools: offensive realism, defensive realism. So offensive realism is Mearsheimer, because he says that countries are power maximizers in that regard, whereas Kenneth Waltz he says that countries are security maximizers. And even neorealism to a certain extent believes that state are the primary actors in international politics. And what else? You can write, you can include who is that person who gave Arnold Wolfers, right? John Burton. Alfred Wolfers, not cobweb model, billiard board model.
We will not use cobweb model.
Why you will use cobweb model? Billiard board model.
Billiard board model by
Arnold Wolfers, because here every country, since every country is going for its own security interest, obviously the world resembles like what? Billiard ball, hard nut shells, they are going to come in conflict. So that is what they have asked, and its basic tenets. Now you have to also add criticism of neorealism, especially from whom?
Feminists.
So one you can say from liberal school of thought, okay. Social constructivists you can write Alexander Wendt. He says that anarchy and hierarchy is nothing but a human construction.
International Society School, the English school by Hedley Wolff. International politics is anarchical society.
See again, don't include everything, write one or two. So you have to bring criticism of their claim. Okay, so one criticism is that they say that international order is anarchical and hierarchical. There you will bring the social constructivist perspective. Second one, they say countries will only go for relative gain. You can say it is also wrong, because when you look at from liberal school of thought, what they argue is that today if you look at climate change negotiation etc., it's not that countries are only going for relative gain. There are also certain what you can say, countries are also going for what, they are making greater concessions, cooperations etc. So the world today does not resemble the billiard board model. It is becoming cobweb model, because the neorealism did not take into account the technological changes that has happened in international politics. So nevertheless, in spite of its limitation, one cannot deny, when you look at international institutions today, the what we can say, the Russia-Ukraine war, the Israel-Palestine issues, the limitations of international institution resembles what Kenneth Waltz echoed, hierarchical and anarchical. So when you look into these kind of questions, try to focus on the keywords. First they have told discuss the emergence. So first part of your answer, it's not directly going to neorealism. First start with realism. So what is realist school of thought? Oldest school of thought. So then you speak about within realism, it was the classical realism that was dominant, hence Morgan to his book, etc. Then you can say why classical realism came under criticism in that regard. Then you bring the aspect of these arguments of what Kenneth Waltz. Then you write what are the basic assumptions of neorealism or basic philosophy of neorealism. Then you bring criticism of neorealism, then conclude your answer. When you critique, always you have critical theories: liberalism, Marxism, feminism, social, constructive theory. So it's not that you bring all four of them in that regard, you can bring one or two. Feminism, where you can actually bring is that not with regard to classical realism in that regard, you can bring in terms of, neorealism, you can bring in classical realism, because he says that it is based on human nature. So feminist school will argue that they only taken the human nature is the nature of the man. If they considered the nature of women, women are more, what you can say, cooperative, less aggressive, sympathy and emotion are there. So that is why you have international states reflect patriarchal attitudes, that is why states go to war. So don't try to just bring all in one place, try to think which criticism you are bringing, what is the criticism you are bringing as. Criticism should not be, you are writing some criticism, it is no link to the argument what you have brought. That should not be the case. What argument you have brought in your answer, for that you try to bring a critic. Okay. So that's why I told what I think morning I have shared one notes with you guys. Should check. I think I have not yet shared. I will share you the notes later. There is one notes for all these realism, feminism, and theories of international politics. So there, I have given the key aspect in it. You have to go through the key aspects. Okay, the books, the scholars, and the keywords. So again, when you look at the question, try to structure your question correctly. Don't try to just try to bring whatever criticism you are adding something, assumption you are adding something. So here when you told neorealism and its basic tenets, criticism should be matching what they are claiming. They are claiming what? Why nations behave like this? Because the international structure is anarchical hierarchical. So social construct, their argument, who told international structure is anarchical? Obviously that is nothing but it's a meta-narrative. The narrative to match the what to justify their theory. Second thing is that what liberal school of thought will say that, okay, neorealism has purposefully ignored the cooperative elements that have developed. For example, they didn't consider non-state actors are important players, but today if you see multinational companies, the international NGOs, they do play a key role in international politics that they have ignored. So that's why I told here, not just writing that perspective and say this they have criticized, this they have criticized. Okay, what is that they have criticized? You are getting the point. So basically yesterday also one student he had written an answer for the question, I think in part B, it was criminalization of Indian politics. So you have to bring why there is criminalization in Indian politics. One you told Milan Vaishnav says criminalization of Indian politics is happening. Then Rodriguez, this fellow, they also say in Indian parliament more criminals are entering. And recently it shows that data shows that 46% of them are criminals. Okay, where did you say that why criminals are becoming part of politics? That he never answered. Then solution, Indrajit Gupta committee, state funding of election, this, that. So obviously it's a collective of information. You have not analyzed it. So one, political parties are giving tickets to criminals. Why? Because criminals have money power and muscle power. Second one, you can write Hannah Arendt's banality of evil. It has been now accepted by Indian society that criminals are okay with the system. They don't find any fault in that. Third, you can say identity politics in that regard. People are ready to vote for criminals because they belong to their particular caste, religion, etc. Fourth one, judicial delay in giving judgments in various cases where you can say they are accused but still they will be able to contest the elections. Now one paragraph to write about, okay, bringing criminals to politics delegitimizes the institution of parliament. It has ill effects on parliament because obviously they are not going to participate effectively in parliament. And then you have to tell what steps can be taken in order to ensure that criminals or decriminalization can parliament happen. But in the points what that fellow wrote, he told one Milan Vaishnav also he gave wrong. He told Ashutosh Varshni in his When Crime Pays, he said that criminals are there. So in all the points he told criminals are there, criminals are there, criminals are there, but he never told why criminals are there. So many times what happens in question, you might try to fool your answer with many comments, but try to ensure that you are connecting that point to the question why and how. So even here, when you have written the neorealism, what is the criticism the neorealism believes? You have to tell one, they told international structure is anarchical and hierarchical. Okay, who? Kenneth Waltz. Okay, others don't feel it is anarchical or hierarchical. Or second one, they argued that what state is the only principal actors in international system. Obviously, if you look around today, it's different. There are non-state actors who are highly influential in international politics. They have not taken account into that. Or third criticism about this neo-realism is that they say that the cooperation is only limited when there is relative gain. But there are various cases in international politics where we have seen countries have gone to what? Not just relative gain also. If like America, they did not get greater gain by involvement in many international issues. But however, they went and preserved the international liberal world order. So, but then you can bring an argument to substantiate the neoclassicalism that, but however, whatever said, even when you look at today's world, because neorealism will also criticize liberal school of thought. Now, if liberal school of thought says that there is liberal institutionalism, UN is there, etc. They say why UN is there? Because the P5 countries have a relative gain and that is why UN has still survived. Or their argument that what multinational companies or NGOs are there, they say they are nothing but agents of state. They are nothing but they are part of state, they are extension of state. In between this you have this Marxist school of thought who says again same Marxism is very easy wherever to understand international politics it is not autonomous, it is nothing but a sub school of economy. So that is why they will see that these multinational companies etc. they are nothing but symbols of the capitalist state. Immanuel Wallerstein, A.G. Frank, dependency theory and world system theory. So it's more about how do you interlink in your analysis about theories of international politics. So take one more question to write or to read. Take down, what is the realist prescription to the states? What is the realist prescription to the states to ensure their survival? What is the realist prescription to the states to ensure their survival in an anarchical world? What is the realist prescription to the state for their survival in the anarchical world? So it's a 15 marker question asked in 2022. You have 11 minutes to write. Last 5 minutes. Last 60 seconds. I think time is up. Time is up. How much? So obviously the question was what they told, what is the realist prescription of states to ensure their survival in anarchical world. So obviously they have indicated that in anarchical world, what is anarchical world? When there is no common authority. So obviously what will state will have to do. So introduction obviously start with the two interesting things. One, you have to keep realist perspective can also include both classical realism as well as neo-realism. So here when you write about generally introduction, you will go on to introduce about realist perspective in international politics. That is the oldest perspective, and realism believe that what the international politics is an arena of security dilemma. Then you can say the realist perspective about how to handle prescription. So here you can say neorealism in that regard, it speaks about two broad perspective. One, defensive realism, the other is offensive realism. Offensive realism advises for what? Go for power maximization, because there is never ending of means you continuously, if you maximize power, that is the way you can get your security. But what is defensive realism? Their prescription saying that go for security maximization, acquire power that is limited to security, because greater acquisition of power will lead to what? It will put into a never ending arms race, etc. And this might lead to greater insecurity. And second general prescription also what they go for country, go for militarization. And they are speaking about what idea of security? They are speaking about idea of traditional forms of security that can be brought, what classical realism believes through balance of power, going for arms race, forming alliances. So you will write this is their prescription. Now one part of the answer you wrote. Now the second part of the answer, even though you can argue that, sir, anyway they have just told what is their prescription, should I write any kind of analysis of their, you have to write. So you have to write the prescription given by realist school of thought was largely relevant during the Cold War. Obviously with the change of Cold War, the international dynamics now has changed. So for example, today we are not only speaking about traditional security, we are also speaking about non-traditional security threat that emerges for the nations. For example, COVID can be a thing. So these cannot be tackled through what the realists have recommended, right? So today there is also security threat in terms of climate change. So climate change cannot be tackled through balance of power, climate change cannot be tackled through arms race, etc. It requires cooperation between the countries at large. Third problem, they had recommended security from whom? Security from another state. But today's world we can say the rise of non-state actors in that regard, here balance of power won't work. So hence in this regard you can say realism also modified itself with newer mechanism, calling something called as what? Asymmetrical balancing, soft balancing. So hence we can say that security itself is a very contested concept. So the recommendation or the prescription by the realist school of thought may be partially relevant today, because today's world does not face only traditional security threats, today's world also faces non-traditional security threat. So these should be the dynamics of your answer. So that's why I told first one thing is that when you take for realist perspective, the question is that whether did you take only classical realism or did you include neorealism. Again when you took neorealism, did you include offensive realism, defensive realism. Then in general points, what is the recommendation to security, what are the tools of security, balance of power, arms race, formation of alliances in that regard. Then you have to go and analyze saying that these prescriptions, are they relevant today, may be partially relevant today, but first you have to speak about what are the new challenges that are emerging in today's world and why these prescriptions alone cannot be helpful for these states to manage the challenges. But however, some prescription like formation of alliances are there, like Quad has been formed in recent times. So whether they have asked you or not asked you, like sir, they have not asked only examine, they are only asked what is. So 15 marker question, now what do you write about prescription? Only 3 or 4 prescriptions are there. Obviously it makes sense in your answer, you also have to speak about, is this prescription relevant in today's world? So to examine whether relevant in today's world, you also have to bring the changes, like when you say security, security from whom, security of what, and security for whom. So these prescriptions were mainly designed for what? Bringing traditional security, security of territorial borders, security from another nation state. But these prescriptions are not completely useful for bringing the modern day idea of security threats. So COVID-19 is a security threat, climate change is a security threat, non-state actors are security threat. So if you have written those aspects, then your answer will be complete.
We can also bring Edle Bull. He says that there is society of states. There is not just conflict, there is also some element of cooperation. So the question is survival in the anarchical world. So it is not complete anarchy.
That's the mistake. question is not about whether it is anarchical world or non-anarchical world. Question is about what is the prescription to survive in an anarchical world. Even if you are writing that point, okay, you are telling it is a non-anarchical world.
Not complete anarchy.
But what is the security? Speak out security prescription in a non-anarchical world. Where you are going wrong is that you are arguing the statement it is anarchical world, non-anarchical world. Question is not only anarchical, question is about prescriptions. So they had prescribed something for the anarchical world. Okay. So they are also not telling that is in non-anarchical. Their prescription was relevant in the anarchical world. So in an anarchical world they are telling how to survive. So that though we have to agree that in an anarchical what prescription they give makes sense. But then you can bring, today what we have is not completely not an anarchical world, today we have an integrated world, we have also an anarchical society, that not the answer. So in this kind of society what are the threats that emerge? You can mind, there is no denying fact that what they recommended in an anarchical world, yes, was relevant. Okay. So the question remains is that, okay, now the world has changed, it is no more an anarchical world. Today there are institutions, today world has integrated, new threats have emerged. Okay, in an anarchical world they only assumed threat will only come from another state. Okay, but today you can say the threat not only comes from state, threat can also come from virus, threat can also come from floods, tsunamis, threat can also from terror groups, multinational companies. Right, because you are telling about security threat only in terms of political and military security. What about economic security? Getting the point? So interpret the question correctly. So that's why I told again here you don't need to read too much theories and all. Go to the foundation of the keywords in the question. So if you read the question, what is the realist prescription to states to ensure their survival in an anarchical world? Of course, this is what they told in anarchical world to survive. But what is the debate here is that, are we still in this anarchical world? Now as he told, no, maybe we are moved into an anarchical society. Or some would also say, no, we are moved into a world where this liberal institutionalization, world is not completely anarchical. Question is not only that, in this world what are the threats that are emerging? Okay, are these prescriptions even relevant today? Or are they partially relevant? Because today you can say we have the idea of collective security. So in these questions you need to bring your understanding what you have read in other theories also into your paper. Then it becomes much easier for you to write an organic answer. Otherwise what will happen, your answer might not be organic to that sense. So you take different questions they have asked. See one more question just to decipher it. 2017 they have asked, is realist approach the best method to understand international relations? Is realist approach the best method to understand international relations? Examine this in the context of classical realism. Is realist approach the best method to understand international relations? Examine this in the context of classical realism. Examine this in the context of classical realism. Now decipher the question and tell me what exactly the question they are asking. Because for you to write the correct answer, first you have to know what is the right question. If you know the right question, you know the right problem. If you know the right problem, you can give the right solution. Which, so basically they have given a context, to the context they are asking this from classical realist point of view. So obviously first you have to write about what is classical realism, what are the important assumptions of classical realism. You can say Hans Morgenthau and his book you can write, but now you have to write what they have, how they study international politics. One, human behavior, what is that, second one, that self-help have to go, etc. But second part of the answer, what you are going to write? The shortcomings of this approach. One, you can bring a neorealist perspective. Kenneth Waltz, who highlighted one shortcoming, that what any kind of study of international politics cannot be based on human behavior alone. It should be systematic. and that is why he proposed what? System structural realism, where he told it is hierarchical and anarchical. It is not because of human behavior the states are aggressive or states there is security dilemma. It is because of the structural thing. So what is the difference between the two? The difference between the two is that what his argument is that when you are telling it is because of human behavior, it is impossible to scientifically say humans behave this way. I might behave differently, you might behave differently. So you saying like Manmohan Singh was there, that is why LPG reforms happened, but the structuralists won't agree with that. They say it is irrespective of Manmohan Singh, it is irrespective of Narendra Modi, whoever was there, they would have done LPG reforms. Structuralism like that, it is not because of who man is ruling the state or woman is ruling the state, they are simply telling state behavior is an outcome of a structure. It is not linked to any way about who is ruling the state. So that is one critic you will have to bring. That is one wrong thing he says in his approach. Second criticism of their approach is what?
Feminist,
So you now bring liberal approach na. So classical realism might be relevant to understand the politics in the times of what you can say First World War and Second World War, but it is not. It might not be the best approach to capture the politics of post Cold War. Why? New developments have happened. The rise of non-state actors, multinational companies, international NGOs, because classical realism does not take into account of these non-state actors. Second, the idea of security today has been widened by the feminist school of thought. They have changed the perception from territorial security to human security, and classical realism does not capture this. The third major problem, development of nuclear weapons in that regard has nullified the concept of balance of power. Right, balance of power was different. Balance of power, 3 or 4 major players in the system. Some might be strong, some might be weak, but they try to balance each other through alliances. But with development of nuclear weapons in that regard, balance of power has lost relevance. So you can also bring a classical realist approach was more useful to study when the world was largely seen through the Arnold Wolfer's billiard board model, but today the world more resembles of a cobweb model of who is that, Burton, John Burton. Nevertheless, you can say some ideas of classical realism might still hold relevance, such as as David Hume said, balance of power will remain relevant as long common sense prevails. So these questions are all analytical questions. You have to bring your analysis on the paper. So that's why I don't know what will happen is that when you try to stuff yourself with too many things, I don't know, like let us say you don't know also about this what is that Thucydide trap. Forget about it. No problem. Look at the question, try to analyze the question, try to bring a systematic flow in your answer. Give that clarity, because here it's you don't need plenty to write. What do you know that you have to know well? This chapter is theories of international. It's very easy to answer because almost are interlinked. So when they ask feminist approach, you can bring a critic in form of these neorealists. Simple na? Feminist approach you have to know J.N. Tickner, Cynthia Enlow, Catherine Moon. There are the 3 names you have to know, because almost the approach will be same. They say women are not visible in international politics, women are not playing any role in state, or state is completely patriarchal attitude it has. Third one, idea of security they have modified. J.N. Tickner has modified Hans Morgan to 6 assumptions of international politics. Simple na? Chandra Mohanty, obviously she is a post-colonial feminist, she criticizes the Eurocentric feminist view. This is basic things what you can learn from a book, that's it. That is the utility of a book, nothing more. Maybe 1 or 2 examples. That Catherine Moon, she speaks about militarized prostitution. In South Korea, when the American soldiers were recruited, the state only supplied prostitutes to keep the American soldiers happy. So she used the term militarized prostitution. You recommend? So in IR what happens, they might ask question in a broader way. If you know these things, you can easily connect and write. Like what will the Marxist feminists 100% argue? They would argue that if you break the clutches of this, globalization and all, they will focus on how globalization impacted women. Women, what you can say, suppression is a result of the economic structure of the world. It is not because of men are ruling the state. So as I told, theoretical clarity should be there in your answers. What is the view of social constructivism? Is very simple. Same thing, how postmodernist view is there. They say everything is nothing but the social reality is your construction. So that is, they criticize why, because they criticize classical realists, that why did he assume that human nature is only this way? Anarchy, okay, what is anarchy?
Anarchy is what states make.
What states make of it? Simple, na? If they ask, you can say what is the criticism against social constructivist? Yeah, theoretically very good, but practically it does not give you any kind of leeway into ensuring security of a country, etc. And if you see the question also, they have never asked question like main theories they have never asked. They asked the questions through largely these liberalism and realism. They are asking the critique of it. But Marxism they have asked many times. Now take one more question to write. This is on feminist approach. Take the question as the feminist approach to international politics. The feminist approach to international politics is biased. Comment. The feminist approach to international politics is biased. Comment. Feminist approach to international politics is biased. Comment. So content I am sure you will have, but tell me more with respect to the approach.
Sir, we define feminist school, then we define its basic tenets, and then we say how it is biased, and then antithesis.
Okay, introduction you will write about feminist approach to international politics emerge as one of the critical theories of the realist school of thought. Then
Can we direct jump into how it is biased? Because their main the foundation is in criticism of the realist and other theories.
so first of all, who is telling it is biased?
Maybe realist.
The neorealists such as Kenneth Waltz critique the feminist approach as biased. Why? Because feminist approach claims that what if women go on to be leaders of state, etc., the character of the state is bound to change. That state will be more cooperative, the state will avoid wars, and what you can say, that they say that what it is men, it is not, it is men, or what is it? War makes them men, is there now?
It is men make war because war.
It is men who make war because war makes them men. But however, neorealists say that this approach is biased two ways. One, they say the behavior of nation state is not account of human nature, it is on account of what? The structure of international politics, that is anarchy and hierarchy, and reducing it to gender factor alone would be a bias. For example, during times of Indira Gandhi and Margaret Thatcher or Golda Meir of Israel, the states were aggressive, the state did go to war. The states were aggressive and the states did go to war. State were aggressive and state did go to war. Then you can also say one more point is that the post-colonial feminists also highlight the fact that the feminist school of thought largely depicts the issues of white women and it is more of a Eurocentric projection. The issues of post-colonial women are neglected. You have Chandra Mohanty who brings this view. Then what will you write? Nevertheless, even Kenneth Waltz does agree that what? That feminism has been highlighted, the gender justice in global politics, has highlighted the gender justice in global politics. They have given a new dimension to security. They have given a new dimension to security. And they have brought focus to role of gender in international politics. They have also brought focus to gender in international politics. Look at it, recently countries like Sweden have come out with foreign. So any question you see, first you try to structure the question in which point of view they have asked. So basically here feminist approach in international politics is biased. Basically who could have told such a view? Obviously it is a neorealist. So why? You should explain why they are telling it is biased. Then bring an antithesis, not antithesis you can say, even though you can say there are certain limitations in that area, but nobody can deny that feminist perspective has highlighted the gender injustice in the world. They have given a new idea of what is the idea of security, and they brought back the focus of international politics on women. That will be your answer. So that's why I told here your answer will change according to what and how the question has been asked. So the only one way you can improve in these areas is that stick on to some basic reading. I told now what should be your notes. Introduction, conclusion, certain thinkers and their books, what they have written, what is the core idea. Rest and all you have to build your answer based on interlinking what they have asked. Okay, they can ask anywhere. They might ask feminization of security in international politics. Comment. You can ask feminization of security in international politics, comment. So obviously here how I am going to answer my question. First I am going to introduce about security. I can say security has been the central focus of international politics because national interest, power, etc. all joins down to idea of security. But however, the traditional idea of security had been always what? Security from whom? Security from another state. Security of what? Territorial security in that regard. And security through what? Through militarization, balance of power, arms race. But however, with emergence of the feminist school of thought, J. Ann Tickner, she remodified the idea of security. She critiqued Hans Morgenthau's, the classical school of thought. Now feminism spoke about secure, means they broke the barriers of, so they extended personal is political to what? Personal is international, international is personal. And now they have highlighted the security faced by the women in international politics. So they have highlighted non-traditional security threats. For example, climate change kills more number of women than men. Second one, when a war happens, the human right is mainly, it is women rights, Hillary Clinton. Or secondly, they have told security can be brought by not through militarization, it is by investing in capacity building. That is what through food security, education, health. So that is why you can say that Barry Buzan's you can use, security is more of a speech act. You are getting the point. So that's what I told, where this idea is actually very well given, it is not in any other book, it is in your NCERT book. If you have read your NCERT book, there are, if you take the 12th standard political science book, there is chapters on this security balance over. They give you with pictures. For example, now you might say security, you might only think about Pakistan is the threat to India. Security can be a very broader concept. A woman being raped in the street, she is also insecure. You are getting in mind how they shifted the idea of security. Before, security only worked in terms of what? Thinking about territorial integrity. Now they have changed the focus of security, not about territory, it is about human security. It is about women's security. That is why Hillary Clinton told human rights are more importantly called as women rights. Why? Because the greatest human rights violation happens against women. So that is when they say that war happens in that regard. Who is disproportionately affected is women. How? One, as a war, what you can say, domination, many times rapes happened. For example, Serbia and Kosovo war, you can say the soldiers raped the women. Why? Because women are largely seen in many society as the honor of the men. So when rape happens, basically you are now humiliating the other country that we have broken your honor. Second thing you can say, when soldiers die in the war, then also women are affected even in Kosovo. The reason is that now the burden falls on the woman to take care of the family. You're getting a point. These are why you can say this Andrew Haywood, etc. They give you that kind of idea because they say that how a war affects women on either side, victory side and loser side also. Third, they are speaking about security what? For example, now climate change happens. Now water is become what you can say scarcity. Obviously in rural areas it is women who have to walk long distances to get water, it is not the men. So the feminist perspective widened the idea of security, they made security more comprehensive rather than the narrow traditional way how the classical realism viewed security. And to bring these kind of security, it cannot be done only through military efforts, it also requires capacity building. Okay, and here they believe role of international institutions. Same thing. But if you write your answer, if you say feminization of security, where I have read it, you have to apply the concept, and that's why I told this is more organic. They can ask anything, feminization of security, or they say examine the role of gender justice in international politics. International politics, not only in India, you cannot give only example of India and write your answer. UN report is there, simple, Bayard, one report, use it everywhere. What is that? Women constitute half of the world population, they do 2/3 of the workforce, they own 1/10 of the, they receive 1/10 of the salary, and they own 1/100th of the land holdings. So this is an example of global gender justice. You can say na political level, social level, speak about when war happens, how injustice is done. Don't here think about generally which theory you will write. Generally write what is the role of gender justice. First half of your answer you can say why there is gender injustice. So you can bring one feminist argument, most of the states are dominated by men. Obviously you can say what, it is men who make war because war makes them men. Second one, the idea of security or justice is largely only seen in political sense, they are not looking at social level and economic level. Third, you can say that climate change when happens, so recently there is a view saying that climate change negotiations, women are not involved to a great extent, that is also climate injustice, because when you say climate justice, it is not only developed world and developing countries, they are telling you also have a gender angle to that, because climate change has more disproportionate impact on women than men. Or when Israel-Palestine issue now is happening, both sides, who was disproportionately affected? It is the women on either side, children on the either side. But then you can say, however, things have improved, it has not remained the same. Today the countries are working towards gender justice, UN Women has been established, Sustainable Development Goal which speaks about increasing the literacy rate of women, empowering the women. Today many countries like India have brought women reservation bill, reservation in Panchayats. Countries like Rwanda etc. have ensured that 60% representation is there women in the parliament. And very recently WTO got its first black woman, Onkoja Iweala, to be the president of WTO. But still more needs to be done. You speak about the plight of women in Taliban. You speak about Russia-Ukraine issue. And you can say, so that's why I told these answers are all not difficult to write, but you will have to know how to write, how to link. The problem lies where majority, they Bayard theories. You are getting a point, they are not applying the concept in that regard. And when question they see in the paper, it will be very dynamic. I don't know what is the role of gender justice in it. You don't know what to write, how to start, where to go. You don't have a structure. Lot of points will come to your mind, you will mess it up. So first tell what is gender justice. Speak about why there is no gender justice. Speak about perspectives. Bring a feminist perspective, na? They tell why there is no gender. Like they'll critique even the liberal perspective, saying that capitalism has actually led to what? If you take impact of globalization on women in third world countries in that regard, there is both positives and negative. Now highlight the negative impacts. Countries like Thailand have become sex capitals of the world. Sex slaves have been created. Human trafficking, prostitution. Simple, na? You can say now terror groups in Nigeria, Boko Haram, held women, girl students, what you can say, they had kidnapped them. So that's why I told these are very easy to write, but you need a proper perspective to address the question in that regard. UN peacekeeping forces have been accused of what? Rapes in peacekeeping operations. So two things, one you have to say about a feminist perspective, saying that how gender justice was not there, then give evidence about how today gender justice is being brought. So you have this Beijing conference, CEDAW, Convention on Elimination of All Disabilities Against Women, Discrimination Against Women. That's what I will write off all in one page, positive things what has happened, SDG. You know how I used to make, that is how I used to make. I used to make one page about important stuff. If there is any recent thing that has, has been signed, I would add into my notes. Because that is not the thing they are going to ask in the exam. But when I write my answer, I will bring, okay, these are the developments that have happened. Got it? But to explain those developments, you need perspectives. And always answer should be, ending should be more of what you can say, optimism. It should be not like, there is no chance gender justice will come in the world. No, you have to tell, the journey has started with a single step. That's why I told the Ivala point. She became the first black woman to head WTO. Understand, you can say countries like Sweden have bought a feminist foreign policy. So that you can write. Or I think there is also data, world over, what is the representation of women in parliament? World over, I think it is just 34% or something. So these kind of data, this should be there in your book. So that's why I have shared one copy, data for exams, gender, women, I think morning if you see there is a document, data for exams, okay, data, yeah, so there you will get all the data, what we speak, that you just buy out 1 or 2 data to use it in your answer. So in these parts, it's a culmination of theoretical concepts, examples, data, reports, what you can bring. And don't think that question will come static way. Question can come, maybe don't know, this feminization of security, any way question, but try to articulate your answer better. But that you practice, you take up questions, you practice. Again tomorrow, when you see some questions, if you find it difficult to answer, get it to class. I will give you the structure. Okay. So tomorrow we'll go into these things, what is that? National interest, balance of power, collective security, deterrence, nuclear deterrence. And we'll also have to go into liberal school of thought, because there they have multiple sub-schools. Liberal institutionalism, democratic peace theory, functionalism, neo-functionalism, and what else you have? This is the other theory, liberal institution, democratic peace theory, functionalism, neo-functionalism. Systems approach is more of behavioral revolution in international politics. That will be under that, balance of power and all will do. And then we'll go into certain this thing also, what is that, institutions which are there. International Criminal Court is in news. Last time they asked ICJ, structure and function, this time they can ask ICC. So we'll go into some important organization, means fixed points, what we can go right. But I think I have not shared one document of these IR theories. I have done a short document, like, important scholar, that I'll find it on it, and I thought morning I had sent it. I don't know, I think it's lost somewhere or something. But comparative politics, I have shared it, but comparative politics will be the last part what we do, once we do IR theories and bilateral relations.